Good morning, guys. Good morning. How's everyone doing this not so good, grey, rainy Thursday morning? I hope everyone's doing well. Hope you're all in the best of health, best of wealth. Hope you're being the best version of yourself you could possibly be. Because in today's society, like I always say, that's the only way to be. So, this morning I'm going to be having a little chat with you about the Essex boys, which I know as Mickey Steele and Jack Holmes. Now I've got a few bits written down, a few bullet points written down, because obviously I've done a little bit of research into Mickey Steele and Jack Holmes. Not that I needed to, because I personally know Jack Holmes and I personally know Mickey Steele. I was away with them on the same sentence. Well, not on the same sentence, but when I was doing their life sentence and when I was doing my 12 years, I was away in HMP Whitemoor prison up in Cambridge for 3 years, all on the same wing together. Now, I don't like name dropping, but all my stories can be vouched. They're 100% true. There was quite a few of us in there around the chaps. Yami was one of them, Razor. So many chaps all on one wing. It was unbelievable. But like I always say, you know, no one was better than no one. We was all on the same level. It didn't matter what you had outside, you know, money wise, family wise, backup wise, because when you're in there, you're all on the same level. No one is better than no one, and no one treats anyone any different than you do other people inside. So yeah, there was big names in there. There was big names in there, but they all got treated exactly the same. They could have been the biggest name on the planet or the smallest name on the planet, but in there, everyone's on the same level. So I've got a few bits written down what I want to get over. Jack Holmes was released from prison in 2021. He worked his way through the prison system to be downcatted, and he got to a cat, from a cat A, it went to a cat B, to a cat C, to a cat D, to get in open prison, conditions, and open prison. He was getting town visits, he was getting home leaves. He knuckled down. And I'll talk to you a little bit about my experience with Jack as we go along. But yeah, he didn't pose any risk to the public, and they let him out in 2021. Mickey Steele, he was released last month in May of this year. He stayed at Cat A all the way through his sentence. He also pleaded his innocence all the way through his sentence. Part of his conditions are not to be able to talk to the social media or journalists about his story or his case. He will never ever be able to talk to anyone about his case, because if he does, he'll get recalled in an instant. So that's just a few bullet points, and now I'm going to give you a little bit of my experience with being around the chaps. Now, Jack Holmes was and Mickey Steele, they was very quiet. They was very they kept in their own circle, but they knew who the chaps were. They said hello to everyone. There wasn't ignorant. There wasn't flash or anything like that whatsoever. But what they did do is they pleaded their innocence from the minute they got arrested until the minute they got out. They never ever admitted to what they was accused of. It's a shame, really, that they can't, you know, tell their story to a journalist, or, you know, go to a solicitor or barrister or QC or whatever, you know, to open their case back up to, for more evidence, because, you know, doing all them years and still being released and saying they're not guilty, that says something, doesn't it? It really does say something. And I think, well, I honestly believe that they convicted the wrong people for that case. There's still people, still big names, you know, today out there what are making accusations about this, but I've got to stay a little bit stum about this because obviously I don't want to get my collar felt. But yeah, Mickey Steele. When I was away with Mickey Steele, which would have been in 1999 in Whitemoor, he wouldn't do any courses. So, you know, I used to hang at, you know, these landings. You've got the ones and the twos and the threes. and I used to hang over the landing, you know, and have a chat with all the boys going around. But I was a bit of a live wire myself, so you know, people liked being around me because I was exciting. I wasn't what you call a boring role model inmate. I was always doing something. I was always up to something, and that's how I got through my sentence. That's actually how I got through my bird, by getting up to things. I couldn't just lay down and do my bird, you know, that way. I had to do things to get through it. But yeah, Mickey Steele, he didn't do no courses. He wouldn't do no victim awareness courses or any courses of this such, because the reason for that, why he wouldn't do no courses, is because the minute you do them courses, you're admitting your guilt by doing these courses. So what he said is a word for it. What he said is, if he does these courses, yeah, and they start questioning him, he's going to say, well, he's innocent. So, and then they're going to try and turn it round on him and say, well, if you're innocent, you know, why are you doing a victim awareness course? So he avoided all the courses, Mick Steele. I don't know about Jack Holmes, but when I was with Jack Holmes in Whitemore, he was a very quiet man, a very humble man, a big man. But he didn't look like a guilty man to me whatsoever, you know. And nor did Mickey Steele, by the way. Although, you know, Mickey Steele had a bit of form, he's done a bit of ball stall, he's done a little bit of bird. Jack Holmes hadn't. So those, like Bonnie and Clyde, those two different people whatsoever. But yeah, we used to walk around the yard with them, have a bit of exercise with them, and have a bit of banter with them. But Jack Holmes was very inwards, very inwards. Mickey Steele would talk to all the chaps. He knew all the chaps. All the chaps knew him. Jack Holmes wasn't a really known person. But yeah, it's such a shame that they're not allowed to speak to anyone. Social media, journalist, anyone whatsoever about the case. And did you hear what they said? The reason why they released Mickey Steele in the end is because he didn't pose a threat to the public. And I should think not. He's 80 years of age, you know, and they've just let him out. What risk could he pose to the public, you know? I know what people are saying about his criminal connections, etc., etc., etc. But Mickey himself is an 80-year-old man. What could he ever pose a risk? How can he pose a risk? I hope they do the same. Just let me have a drink. I hope they do the same for Bronson. I really do. Let him out. The difference, I've got a bit of a cold. The difference between Bronson, Mickey Steele and Jack Holmes is a little bit of difference. When Bronson first got his bit of bird, he was always up to skullduggery. He was always, you know, he wanted to do his bird his way. I'm not going to slander him because I know him very well and he's a good friend of mine. We still write to each other. But he done his bird his way, the way he wanted to do his bird. You know, there's not many people out there what can do the amount of prison what he's done, especially in solitary confinement. If you take Tommy Robertson, for example, what did he just do? 6 or 7 months in solitary, and did you see the state of him when he come out of jail? Big beard, uncut, scruffy hair, you know. A few more months you would have seen, you could see from the video that it, you know, it would have got hold of Tommy Robertson in the end and it would have gone bonkers. But with Charlie Bronson, he's done all of his bird down the segregation unit. So I think, you know, and so does everyone else think, it's well and truly time for Bronson to get out. They've released a lot of other prolific, horrific offenders what have done some prolific, horrific offences to people on the outside. You know, I'm not going to go into it, but you know what I'm talking about, the type of people what they release, and they haven't released Bronson. Them beasts have been released a few times, yeah, been recalled, let out, been recalled, let out. I mean, take Venables for an example, John Venables, what he did, you know, but yet they let him out, he got recalled, they let him out, they checked things on his computer, they see all what he had on the computer, recalled him back again. He's been in and out a few times. Bronson has never ever had that chance to get out, and he's turned his life around. What risk would Bronson pose to the public outside now? You know, if they let him out now, if the parole board let him out now, he'd have a nice little house, a cottage in the country somewhere. He'd be doing his bit of artwork. He'd be doing book signings. He hasn't got another bit of crime in him, has he? He couldn't commit any more skullduggery. No way. Not at his age. I think Bronson has done 48 years, yeah? And probably 46 of them in solitary confinement. But going back on the story a little bit, let's get back into Mickey Steele. As I said at the beginning of this video, he wasn't a flash bloke, Mickey Steele, but he knew everyone. Kenneth Mulder was all in there. He was very calm, he was very collective. You know, he knew exactly what was going on all around him, but he didn't participate in any skullduggery. You know, he just got his head down, wouldn't do any courses, like I said. But speaking to him as like man to man, you know, he come across to me as a nice chap, a nice bloke, not someone that you cross, obviously, you know, but you know, it's disgusting what they've done. It really is. But yet they've let him out. They've let Mickey Steele out. They've let Jack Holmes out. You know, it ain't fair on Bronson, is it? You know, I'm not favouritising anyone. I'm not saying I prefer Mickey Steele and Jack Holmes over Bronson, because that ain't the case. Because I know them all on a personal level. But I just don't think it's fair. The amount of people they're letting out of jail and keeping Bronson in there. Bronson is paying the price for what he'd done at the beginning of his sentence. Years ago, you're talking decades ago, you know, taking teachers, hostages and prison governors, you know, and education officers and whatever he done, you know. He didn't harm no one. He didn't hurt anyone physically. Maybe mentally, yes, he did. But he didn't physically hurt anyone. Now, if you commit crimes whilst you're in jail, yeah, and you're doing an IPP sentence, which is something else, another video what I'm going to talk about. But if you commit skullduggery while you're in jail and you're doing L plates, a life sentence, yeah, they'll hold that against you right at the end of your sentence. When you want to reform, when you want to turn your life around, call it a day and get out, they're going to hold that against you. And that's what they're holding against Bronson. He's passed. What he'd done over 35 years ago, they're still holding it against him. And the reason why they're doing that is because they can. They're the ones that hold the key, you know. And look at, you know, let's look at the system, the prison system. Look at the parole board. They're all corrupt. It's proper corruption. I mean, even Bronson had a public parole hearing, and even that didn't do him no favours. What that probably done was brought a bit of limelight to him. Let the parole board know how famous he really was, and they held that against him. So, yeah. And I think he went into the hearing and started laughing or something like that. What's he got to go in there crying to get out? My man's done 48 years, man. Let him out. But yeah, guys, I'd like to talk to Mickey Steele, you know, but while he's out. But as I just said, he's not allowed to contact. He's not allowed to tell his story on social media. No journalists are allowed to interview him. He's not allowed to talk about his crime to anyone at all, whatsoever. Not even his family, you know. But yeah, guys, whatever you're doing, hope you're going to have a good day today. And I'll probably be back at you very shortly, man. Thanks for everyone for subscribing. Don't forget to share my channel and give me a thumbs up, because it all helps me up the road. Have a good day, everyone. Peace.